experience at McMaster University. So maybe you're thinking of going to Mac, maybe you go there and you're looking for some extra tips. It's hard to choose sometimes which university or college to attend, so I'm just going to be giving you some information about McMaster. So just a little overview. I'm in second year right now, and I'm not going to say which program I'm in just for privacy reasons, but if you want to know, feel free to message me on Instagram and I'll happily tell you. But yeah, I'm going to be talking a little bit about courses, just some general things to know maybe about first year, some things I wish I knew going into first year, and some ways to maybe make your experience the best it can be. I'm no expert because my first year wasn't, amazing, but it was okay. But there's lots of things that I wish I did know, specifically to McMaster and just in general for going into first year of university. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is picking your courses. So if you have already accepted that you're going to Mac, or if you're just thinking about it, you're going to need to pick your courses and pick your program. So when you apply to Mac, apply for a program that you're actually interested in. I made the mistake of applying for something that I wasn't really interested in, but the first year is a pretty basic year and you can kind of switch around, so don't worry about that too much. Just try to get into a program that you can probably pass, and then once you get in, you can sort of move around or choose which major you want to go into. In terms of course picking, you don't have to do course picking until quite a bit after you get accepted and you accept the offer. I might do a separate video on some courses that I found really easy and fun and that I think are good. So if you want to see that, I might make that. Other than that, I would not worry about picking your courses too much. I would worry more about who the professor is, because the professor really makes the course. The next thing I'm going to talk about is just some first year basics. I didn't stay on residence in first year, I actually commuted, but I think that if you stay on residence, it's quite a bit easier to make friends. That doesn't mean you have to stay on residence. I didn't, and there's pros and cons to staying in residence. I know a lot of people who didn't like it, but a lot of people do make friends that way. Whether you're in residence or not, a really good way to meet people is the first week. I think they call it Frosh Week. I made the mistake of not going to this because I was working this whole week, and so I didn't go to a single event. And I feel like it probably would have been worthwhile to go. A lot of people that I knew already going to McMaster from high school did go to the Frosh Week, and they found it was really great to meet people in their program and to meet some friends. So I would recommend going to that, even though some of the events are kind of stupid, but they might be fun. But don't worry too if you're like me and didn't go to a single one of these, because I feel like a lot of friendships that you make in Frosh Week don't always last. So don't worry too much about that if you can't attend, but I would say for sure if you're hoping to make friends and hoping to meet people on campus, that Frosh Week is worthwhile. Another thing I would say to first years is that it's also really a good idea to go around the campus and just look around the buildings. I mean, it's pretty easy once you have gone for a month or two to school, but when you haven't been on campus, it's really hard to find out where every class is. It's easy to get lost. So what I would do is have your schedule printed out with you. This is a little bit later on, more in September. You could even go in August if you have your schedule, and look at the buildings you're in and go find your classes, because I feel like that's a really good idea. That's what I did. There's a lot of buildings and a lot of rooms, so it can be hard to find your way around. But yeah, there's also a map online that you can use, so that's good. But I find that the best way is to just walk around the buildings. It's not too big of a campus, so it's pretty easy to go from building to building and try and find your classes. Another thing about McMaster is some of the programs they have are really kind of not the best, or some of the courses they have aren't the best. So like I said, I might make a separate video for courses, but if you want to know my specific experience with my program, feel free to message me and ask me about my program, because I'm not always the biggest fan of it. I feel like McMaster, they have good programs, but they also have ones that aren't quite as good. You really have to do your research. That's something I learned. Don't just go into something because someone's telling you to, or because you think it's going to get you jobs. I mean, that's a good reason to take something, but try and take something that you're actually interested in and that you're actually pretty good at. Next I'm going to be talking about is just some general hacks and some general tips to help you in your classes. So one thing that you should really do that I didn't always do, and I don't even always do it now, but I feel like you should always take notes starting from the beginning. Start off on a good note and always try and take notes every class. I actually take notes written down, which I know is probably unpopular, but I just really like to write my own notes rather than type them. But yeah, you can do it on your computer as well. But I think it just really helps when you're going to study. I know what I did first year was I would kind of leave a lot of my classes, and then the midterm would come up or the final would come up, and I would just study a whole bunch just for it, instead of like knowing it over the term and studying throughout the term. I would do all the readings before the exam and try and cram in all the information before the exam. That isn't the best way to learn. If you have to do it, it's fine, but I would suggest keeping notes along the way. I think most people do this. It's pretty straightforward. Next I'm going to talk about the food at McMaster. So a lot of people don't like the food at McMaster, and I sort of agree, but I also have like pretty low standards for good food, so I like almost anything. But I would say the best places to go are probably Starbucks, which I know is expensive, but I feel like they have pretty real food. You can also get some healthy options there. Also Williams Cafe is really good as well, because you can just get a bagel there. They have pretty real food. Those are two of my favorite places to go. Other than that, I feel like Centro, the main cafeteria in residence, is actually pretty good in my opinion. They have a lot of options. Specifically there, they have a really good pasta bar, and it's also pretty healthy because it's mostly vegetables. I typically stay away from meat at school, just because I feel like it's not the best. But if you are looking for meat that does seem more real, then I would go for a hamburger or their chicken tenders, because they're actually seem to be real, sort of real meat. There's also a lot of great places off campus that you can go to. They have Subway, Pink's, a taco place, and they have a lot of good pizza places around the area too. There's a really good pizza place called Doughbox that's really good. They also have a pretty good cafe called Bridges as well for vegetarians, so if you're vegan or vegetarian, that's a great option as well. I would also say that it's pretty expensive. The food on campus, everything on campus is really expensive, but the food is quite overpriced. So yeah, if you have a meal plan, you're lucky. I don't have a meal plan, so I pay for everything myself when I go there. But yeah, the food I think is not bad. A lot of people probably don't like it, but if you know the right things to get, it's actually not bad. Another thing that I would say for first years is MAC is a little bit different than some other schools, because you have to apply to get into the program you want for the second year. So do try to keep your grades pretty good. It depends what program you're trying to get into, but I would say that it's the easiest in first year, so don't stress too much about your courses, but do know that you do have to get kind of a good mark in order to get into your program. So it's a little bit, it can be stressful because you want to get into the program that you want to get into, and go to an advisor and ask them what kind of average, what kind of marks you need to get into the program that you want to, just so you're not blindsided. Another thing that I would advise people is don't worry if you're not making a lot of friends. It's really, really hard, at least for me, and I think a lot of other people too. It's really, really hard to meet friends in classes because they're such big classes for the most part. I had mostly big classes. I think some people maybe are luckier and have the same people in their classes every class, but in my program, or in my first year, I just didn't have the same people in every class, so it was hard to make friends. It was hard to find someone that you know in every class. I sat in every class by myself, which is fine, but yeah, if you're used to having friends in high school, I definitely wasn't. I definitely have been used to kind of being alone and not really having anyone to sit with, but if you're used to having a lot of friends in high school, you probably will not have that in university, at least at the start. Maybe you will, you know, it probably is just, it could be just me because I'm really shy, but yeah, if you have a lot of friends, if you had a lot of friends in high school, don't expect to go into university with a ton of friends, and don't expect to make them quick, you know. Being in residence definitely helps. If you're in a small program, seeing the same people every day, that really helps. I think joining clubs also helps. I didn't join any clubs because I just am not the biggest club joiner. I'm never really into school, but that's something that I definitely should have done, and that I would advise you guys to do, is join some clubs and things that you're interested in. I feel like that's a really good way to make friends. Another good way to make friends is in tutorial. A tutorial is like a group of maybe 20 to 30 students, sometimes a little bit more. So it just gives you more of an opportunity to meet people one-on-one. They usually have group work in tutorials, so that can help you make friends. Didn't really help me, but again, that's me. So don't worry too much about that, but get used to the idea that you will be doing probably a lot of stuff by yourself. If you're not used to that, you know, you might be a little bit lonely at first, or you might be, you know, lonely for most of the year like me, but it's fine. I would just say get comfortable being alone with yourself. Another thing that I would advise to first years is don't expect to have great grades. Maybe you will have great grades. You know, I've been kind of an average student my whole life. When you go to university, your marks usually slip a little bit and maybe go 10%, anywhere up to 10% lower than your grades in high school. So if you were getting an 80s in high school, you may be getting 70s. Don't worry about it too much. I worried about it a lot because I felt like I wasn't doing the right thing, I wasn't smart, and I wasn't, you know, supposed to be there, but that's not the case. You know, as long as you're passing, I would say don't worry about it too much. It's just a transition, so it's hard to sometimes know what they want. It's different learning than it is in high school, so it's hard to get used to that as well. I would also suggest that you guys too, it is a really hard transition and a lot of people do struggle with it, going to university or college, especially if you're living at university or college. It's away from home. You also might feel lonely or alone. Know that it's normal, and also know that there are help centers to help you with whatever you need. There's counselors to talk to. There's people around to help you. More people care about you than you know as well. Like, even someone sitting beside you in a class, if you need help, you know, of course there's people that aren't nice, but I would always be open to helping anyone, and know that most people are. So yeah, there's lots of help that you can get at McMaster. Specifically, they have a wellness center in the student center on the lowest floor in the basement near the printing and photocopying station. So yeah, that's it guys. Overall, I find McMaster is a pretty good school. It does depend on which program you're in, so if you are applying, or if you have already applied, really make sure you know what the program is. Most important thing is to look at the courses and really read the course outlines and know what you're going into. So just choose something that you think that you'd be good at and that you'd be interested in. But McMaster is a pretty good school. If you want to message me personally and ask me anything about it, feel free, and I'll reply. Hopefully that will help your decision a little bit. If you have already applied, that's great. I'm hoping you get accepted. Good luck. That's the video. My Instagram user is in my description. If you want to ask me any questions, feel free to ask. Like and subscribe if you enjoy. If you didn't, that's cool too. And yeah, see you guys for the next video.